Hello. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 6 with Ruby Jaucian, keeping employees engaged in a virtual world. Highly engaged employees produce better business results than other types of employees. This is backed up by large research organizations such as Gallup. More than ever, employee engagement is proving to be one of the key ingredients of a successful organization. Today's talk and speaker will discuss what employee engagement is, its impact to the business, and how to continuously engage employees even in a virtual world. Ruby is the Vice President for Aboitiz Group Human Resources, where she leads and shapes group-wide talent management programs. In this role, she collaborates and works with senior leaders across the group to create an impact on employee engagement. She's also there to help make the digital transformation and to build the future organization. As Vice President of Group HR, she ensures that there is alignment on employee engagement programs and initiatives. This is all across the organization by listening to employee sentiments, supporting the group's CEO's people strategy, crowdsourcing solutions, and driving group-wide employee communications. So let's welcome her to the virtual stage. Ruby?
Thank you, Dino. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity that you've given me tonight to speak about employee engagement, which is a topic that's very close to my heart. I'm very passionate about people and how to engage them and how to inspire them. So since last year when we had the pandemic, when the pandemic started, I think I've been one of the HR people who's been really working hard. So shout out to all the other HR people there. I know that we have stepped up in terms of our role in the organizations. And I think more than ever, employee engagement has become very, very important. When I look at employee engagement, it talks about ensuring that people give discretionary effort. So it's more than just the job description. They give more than what's required of them. And it's done voluntarily. It's from their hearts because they're psychologically connected to the organization. And they just feel like very excited to really help and to participate and to give an extra something or an oomph or an X factor. So for me as a person, as an HR professional, that really tickles my mind, and I'm really very excited on how to discover or rediscover ways to engage employees.
Thank you so much, Ruby. I was just wondering because in previous episodes, we had business owners and one of the hosts of the show, by the way, Michelangelo Chua, come on and say that one of the things that he's had to do as a business owner and as also a people person was to change his mindset about how he thinks about the people who are part of his organization, the talents. He said he had to start thinking of them as family members more than just talents because they were dealing with the stresses and pressures of the new setup. Work from home isn't exactly easy as it sounds because we're more busy now that we're working from home than we ever were when we had to go to an office. So how do you feel about what Mike feels about how companies are now starting to think about their talents?
I think it's very admirable the way he said that. And I think it's something that a lot of leaders should really emulate. People are not assets. People are not really resources. People are human beings, right? So when we had the pandemic, I think a lot of, especially in the Philippines, where our work setting is, a lot of companies became what we call the safety net of people. It's really, I think I've seen this in the big companies and also in smaller family businesses or enterprises, smaller enterprises. They really treat people as family because the thing is that they care for them. They really care for them. So a lot of people didn't know what is COVID, what is happening, right? So we were last March. It was like maybe this is just a conspiracy. Some people would say that, but I think a lot of companies that I have seen, and I've talked to a lot of HR people, my HR friends as well, they really care about their employees more than the usual, right? So they started doing COVID awareness, for example. They started putting up safety protocols. They remind people. They gave out care packages, for example, masks, alcohol. Those simple things, I think, they show that you really care about people and their health. And because you don't want them to get sick, you also don't want their families to get sick. So it even extends to the care extends not just to the employee but also to the families, because we know when someone in the family gets sick, it's more likely that there will be other family members who are going to get sick. So I think that's very, very important. The care, as human beings, caring for them as if they're family, that's very important. So I fully agree with that.
It's true that the pandemic is more than a year old now, and a lot of people would assume that everyone in HR would have already made the adjustment, but that's not necessarily true. And I suppose there's some truth in the fact that folks in HR or practitioners in HR didn't really foresee that they would become essentially frontliners for the organization as well. Because I'm sure you'll agree na before we were just concerned about those four parts of HR, which is recruitment, training, employee relations, and say wages and compensation. But now, more than ever, we're also concerned about things like hospitalization, making sure that they stay healthy, that they follow IATF protocols.
Mm-hmm.
What's
True.
been your experience in terms of keeping the team united or willing to follow the regulations? Um, that couldn't have been easy at the start.
Yes, so definitely not easy. It was a challenge because we were learning, and at the same time we know that people are depending on us. So it's really a challenge for HR, and I think for a lot of leadership teams. I am very fortunate to be part of an organization that really cares for people. That we always say that at the core of the business is people, and it's going to be always about people. So there was a support. I think that's very important. The support from the senior management, from the CEO, from our CHRO, the senior man. It's very important because we need that kind of direction. We need that kind of fast decision making and leadership, because HR can only do. Of course, we care for the people, but it's going to be, our jobs are going to be easier if we have management support. So I'm very fortunate that I have that, and I've seen that in other companies as well. The senior leadership are very, very supportive. So what we did to ensure that people are, following the protocols and they are listening is that we tripled, quadrupled our communication. So that's the first thing that we really did, right? So March, I can still remember, I think it was March 14, 2020, when we said corporate offices are going to be locked down and everybody's going to go home. So people are like, oh, what? Kasama ba ako doon? Hindi na ako papasok bukas. And all of us were, actually, we had some sort of work from home program already, pero once a week lang. So people were prepared. They had laptops and they have internet connection, but they weren't thinking. They didn't expect that it's going to be like this like more than a year already. And actually,
Yes.
in our organization, we said we will extend the work from home until December, and maybe for next year, we're not really going back to the office full time anymore. So it's
Yes.
going to be our normal way of working. So what we did was our CEO, we have a town hall, and what's fabulous is that we were prepared in terms of our communication platform. So we have around 10,000 employees in the Philippines and other countries in Asia. So we had our town hall meeting with the CEO, and he answered all the questions about what's going to happen to us. Are we going to lose our jobs because of COVID? They have a lot of concerns in the beginning. Are you going to support us if we get sick? Will that be covered in our HMO? So those are the basic things that they started, and then asking, and then we continuously answered them, and all of the answers are actually published. So the town hall is done virtually, and we publish that in our internal website. So people who were not able to listen, can go back to it and listen. We also created frequently asked questions. We have a comms team who did advisory. So whatever the government says, IATF says this, we are going to be on ECQ, MECQ, and all of those alphabet. So we announce that to the team, and then we say, okay, this is the government protocol, and this is what we're going to do about it. This is how we will align. So we've been doing that since last year. Last year, it was kind of difficult because we were also tense. We didn't know what to expect. Now we got used to the rhythm in HR. So, okay, nagbago na naman. MECQ. Okay, sige, ito na yung gagawin natin. So I think we have adopted already. But at the same time, we're still learning and trying to continuously, if change the way things are. Yung pinaka-recent is the Delta virus, diba? Because we
Yes.
wanted to open the office already because people are getting their vaccinations through the LGU and through the company program. So we said, okay, everyone who is vaccinated, if you want to go out of your homes and start reporting to the office, you may. But then Delta happened. And
Oh
so
yeah.
we said so we recalled that again, and then we said, for the safety of everybody, if you can continue working from home, then continue working from home. So I think it's really, for us, the first one, our first reaction was really communication and putting all the safety net in place, telling them that don't worry if you get COVID. We will not charge it to your sick leave, for example. It will be covered by your HMO. RT-PCR, the tests will be covered by the company. So don't worry about it. Make sure that you follow protocols and that you keep yourself healthy. And your family is healthy.
It's so reassuring to hear that Aboit is committed to giving that level of concern for its talents. And I hear the same thing from other guests as well. Like, for example, from Nissan Motors, when we
Mm.
interviewed their HR leadership, they said the same thing, that despite the fact that globally Nissan has been shutting down facilities here and there to cope with lowered sales, they said we never looked at it as a way of compromising on what we do for our people. So that's where I saw that there was this unique unique concern that big organizations have for their people despite the challenge posed by this pandemic. And we also heard from another HR group manager who shared with us that despite the best efforts of their company, for example, providing buses to pick people up and bring them
Yeah.
to the factories, I remember Vivian said, well, they were still getting sick, even if we were so careful already about making sure they didn't have to take public transportation. And then when they checked, it was because these folks had to go out and buy food. They had to buy medicine. They had to step out. And especially with the Delta variant, as you pointed out, all it takes is 10 minutes exposure, and that's it. You've
Mhm.
gotten it. Um, on our show, we've also interviewed Doc Noy Josef, who is from the Middle East, and he was like the health minister for one of the countries in the Middle East. And he said, do not underestimate the Delta variant because it is unbelievably contagious. So let me
Mhm.
ask Ruby, what to you would be the initial challenges of engaging people? I mean, one of them has got to be inertia, right? I mean, at the start of all this, it was hard to get people moving in the same direction. But now that they are, what are the additional challenges that you're still experiencing?
Uh, Internet connection. I think so everywhere it's really that. So even last year we asked them. So when we sent them home, we asked them what are your challenges. So we sent us very simple pulse survey. So the number one challenge really is the internet.
Mm.
So we made a study on that, and most of our managers and up they actually have cell phones, so we allow them to use the data if they don't have internet connection. For our team members, we extended what we call this an internet subsidy. So if they need, because because we everyone in their homes are using the
Oh, yeah,
internet,
yeah,
right?
that's true.
The employee, the husband, or the wife, and then the children are doing online studies. So they really have to upgrade their data. So we had a lot of studies about that, and I think that's the number one concern. Even now, internet connection is a concern for many because of the infrastructure that we have in the country. So that remains to be a challenge. But I'd like to share also a simple story, right? When we started the remote work or working from home, we asked people, what are your challenges? So they said internet connection. They said they're challenged with, like, their home setup is not ready because
Okay.
uh, because they go to the office, so they don't have a table, they don't have chairs, right? Or maybe they're sharing a room with their kids, so it's maingay,
Mm.
or they're sharing a room with their siblings. So we found out that some employees would actually work inside their cars during meetings.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
just
right.
to have that quiet place,
Mm.
right? So, and then they also said, so it for us leaders, it's really about trying to understand them and
Mm.
empathizing. So parang, huwag ka naman masungit as a leader, right? When you hear merong medyo may konting noise, because it's really the situation of the employee. So it's trying to understand them better. So if you show empathy to your team members and to the people that you work with, and you try to understand their very unique situation, then I think, and you give them a little bit of consideration, consider that, right? I think they will connect with you more, and you will be able to gain their trust, and you will be able to gain to build the relationship with them. I would look at it as, when we started working from home, it's like being able to welcome more people into your house. Kasi dati
Yeah.
naman, I wasn't able to, like, I have a team members, right? But I'm not able to go to their homes. But now, whenever we do have meetings, they welcome me into their homes. So I think of it that way. So I also welcome them to mine. So like you, Dina, I'm welcoming you to my home, although I have a virtual background here. So I think it's more of that, right? And then another thing that we did, which I think created, it's a small thing, but it created an impact, a very positive impact, is they said, sumasakit yung likod. Because the whole day they're sitting in front of their computers, and they're probably using, not like in the office where we have ergonomic chairs, right? So maybe at home they probably have wooden chairs, or they're using their sofa, or dining chairs and all of that. So what we did as an organization, because nobody was in the office, we let them take home the chairs. We let
I
them take
love
home.
that idea. You know, you just given me an idea because I'm here in my office right now. This is where I'm doing the recording. And we do have a ton of ergonomic chairs here, and none of them are in my house. So I'll be bringing home one of these.
Yeah.
uh, it'll be a non-negotiable with the company president who's just a few doors away. I want one
So
of these because my back hurts. And, it's true about the back hurting because Zoomatitis is a thing, and people
correct.
do suffer from it, from
Yeah.
one
So
meeting to the next. So I'm curious, Ruby, because you're in HR and training is one of the four phases of HR. How do you feel about, say, the aspect of engagement when it comes to training? Because far too many of, say, trainers or those who facilitate learning sessions will face what effectively looks like a columbarium, postage stamp size pictures with names on it, with no faces and everyone's muted. How has that worked? And have we have we found ourselves forced to accept that reality because of a bad internet connection or low bandwidth? How has that worked so far?
okay, so I'm smiling because I love learning and development, and I'm actually we took advantage. We call our learning and development team Aboitiz Academy. We took advantage of this situation to scale up our training. So
Okay.
let me share with you our story on that. A couple of years back, we've been asking people na because the Aboitiz Group is in different places, right? And we also have operations in China, Indonesia, and other countries. So it's for us to go there. They want the face to face training.
Yeah.
So siguro dahil may merienda ganyan, or because people are parang they also have they also get to move out of their day to day and focus on training, right, when they go to a classroom. So we've been introducing e-learning like for several years. So we've introduced several platforms, and year on year it was a flop. It was not being utilized. So even if it was free, we don't charge their cost center. So the people were not just using it. So in 2020, actually, I said, okay, let's just try. We use LinkedIn Learning. Let's just try LinkedIn Learning, and let's start small. I don't want it to be a big bang, explosive implementation. So because let's just start small. So we asked for 100 volunteers, people who are early adopters of technology. So we started with 100 licenses of LinkedIn Learning. And then the pandemic happened. Everyone was sent home. So everyone who had the LinkedIn Learning licenses, they actually had a lot of time, and they access the platform again and again daily, and it has
Wow.
increased their learning a lot. So they started sharing it with other people. So those who didn't have licenses started asking us, can we also have LinkedIn Learning license? Because we're at home, we have a lot of we don't get caught up in traffic anymore. So we can spend more time, after 5 p.m. We can just turn on LinkedIn Learning, watch a video, and we learn every day. We can learn every day. So now we have actually from 100, we have 1,800 LinkedIn Learning users in the group. So it really accelerated oh, the adoption of that kind of technology, right? So, but aside from LinkedIn Learning, which is on demand, we still have virtual classes. So it's still a challenge for people to turn on their cams, but we really partner with very good facilitators, learning facilitators. So we make sure that, and we have a lot of campaigns So we, before they even join the meeting, we tell them, turn on your camera. We're gonna have a photo taken and all of that. So we try to be more engaging and more creative. I think when you're online and when you're doing it virtually, you have to be really creative. Learn your Zoom, use the features of Zoom, try to ask more questions, use the poll and all of that. So those are the two things. Actually, when we and now we go, because of being digital, we actually are able to um, facilitate training for Indonesia, for the other countries. We don't have to have a visa, or we don't have to fly to reach the team members there. We can actually scale up our. We were able to scale up our training, and because of that, actually, Aboitiz Academy won one of the HR most innovative teams in Asia as well. So I'm
Congratulations.
smiling because you know it seems like a very difficult challenge, but if you turn it around, you're able to turn it around to a positive experience for your employees, then they will be more engaged.
I would tend to agree that there are a lot of positive things that has also happened because of the pandemic. But one thing that I have to congratulate you for first is how it seems that there was really not much difficulty for you or for HR to sell the concept of e-learning, because when the pandemic hit, those early adopters of LinkedIn Learning became the ambassadors that convinced everyone else. And before you knew it, you had so many people asking for the same thing. So that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from the fact that we don't have to get stuck in traffic, don't have to look for parking, don't have to pay for parking, and everything is so much more compact. Um, I admire how you say that you've gone for leveraging the technology expertise of people within the organization. So you are now facilitating learning for your other facilities in other countries. So kudos to the Philippines for
Yeah.
leading the way. Wow. Um, for you, what would be some of the more uh, stand out blessings in terms of engaging employees? Because I imagine it's both good and bad that we're now all virtual. There are some blessings that go with it, but at the same time, there are some crosses to bear, because I know that we're
Mm.
social creatures. We do like to meet with people, to interact, no? Um, for you in Aboitiz, because I'm really curious. I do surveys from time to time, and I reach out to my friends who are in HR as well. Um, so some of them tell me that one of their biggest challenges is not in attracting talents to join. The challenge is keeping them once they're in, because sometimes they stay for a few months, sometimes barely a year, and then off they go. um, when we talk about engagement, no, I'd like to take us deeper a little bit more than just say keeping them engaged in Zoom or in learning sessions. What's been the secret for keeping them and helping them to stay, from your perspective? What do you think?
I think there are a lot of factors. I think it's a we've been following a framework for engagement for a long time. We follow, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, the Gallup framework, which is 12
Oh,
questions.
okay.
So we follow that. And I think it's I won't say a formula, but it's a guide for us that we do in the Aboitiz group. And I think the Gallup says kasi that the first two are very important, the first two questions. So the first question is, I know what's expected of me. And then the next question is, I have the resources that I need to work with. Because they have their analogy for engagement is really like you're going to Mount Everest, And in order for you to go to the top, to Mount Everest, you have to have that basic needs. You have to fulfill the basic needs. And I think for Aboitiz, it's really about that. Expectations change every single day,
Yeah.
especially now because of uncertainty, and there are a lot of changes happening socially, politically, you know
Yes.
um, in the environment and on public health and all of that. But as these things change, you also have to set your expectations regularly. But what our leaders would say is that the foundation of everything is really our values. I think that one should not change drastically. So the values of Aboitiz, we keep on saying that it's always part of our communication. So even when we have, for example, I've just been talking to our leaders yesterday. We have created a path of where we are now. This is us, and where do we want to be? Because we know that a future of work has already arrived.
Yeah.
So, but what are the changes that we want? So it's from current to the behaviors that we want in the future, right? But right in the middle of these two, because we know that we're transitioning, it's a transformation. Right in the middle are the values of the company. So I think being truthful, that we really live the values, being authentic about that, that's what creates the connection to the employees. And I think that's the secret sauce. The Aboitiz company is like 100-year-old company. It's more than 100 years now. And ever since, it's in all the books that I've read about them, articles, um, they're very consistent about integrity, teamwork, all those values, very classic values, responsibility. So just a couple of years ago, I think they added innovation, right? But integrity, teamwork, responsibility are values that we've held on to for 100 years. And so we're very truthful to those values. I think that's the secret sauce, because when I read about, people have more time to really think about meaning because of they're staying at home, they're really not going out, they're not out there
Yeah.
having vacations and all of that.
Yes.
So they stay at home and they ask themselves, do I still want to stay in this organization? Am I connected to this organization? Do I believe in the purpose of this organization? So I think if you can provide meaning or purpose to your team members, to your employees, I think that's very important, and that will really engage them to join your organization, or
You
at
know, I can.
engage them to to stay in the
Yeah.
organization.
I can validate how much Aboitiz does value its talents and its willingness to invest in people development. Because I remember there was a time that Aboitiz even had its own Toastmasters club. You know, they went all
We
out
still
to.
do. We still
Oh,
do.
okay. All right, that's good to hear. Um,
Yeah, I was just
I
telling Miss Dina about it.
Yeah, because I remember there was a time when Aboitiz was still part of the WGNA, the Super Ferry,
Super ferry.
and that I was part of the team that helped to organize and maintain the clubs that were part of that. Uh, and so I know that at its core, Aboitiz really values people development and the willingness to invest in their growth. Um, I was just wondering, because of how serious life has become, and you're a parent, I guess you take care of children, you take care
Yes, I
of.
have a 16-year-old daughter, a
Okay.
17-year-old daughter, and a 12-year-old boy.
Oh, um, so you'll probably be able to relate to what I say that, wasn't it difficult for us as parents to watch our children, essentially their social life, dry up um, through no fault of their own. They've been um, prisoners in the home for the last 2 years, and so one of the challenges that we face as parents, especially working parents, is how we also engage those in our home, uh, how to maintain their morale, because we can step out from time to time to buy food, to buy medicine, but if our kids try to go to a mall with us, they'd be stopped cold by a guard
Mm.
from being able to enter in. Um, so I guess this is a different, an off tangent question, but certainly still a valid one. Um, how would we advise our employees who have children to keep them engaged and focused? Because without the presence of human company, it's harder to study, harder to stay motivated uh, in a learning from home situation. So maybe just as a parent asking another parent, how have you coped with that? Because it's very challenging, you know, for me. I can speak as a dad. It's harder for me to keep my daughter focused on her lessons instead of on Roblox, for example.
True.
You know,
That's
so
true.
what's been your experience?
Actually, you've hit something that's very close to my heart, my kids, right? So for my daughter, I don't really have, I empathize with her because she actually moved to from she was with Reedley International School, and then she moved
Yeah,
to UANP because she said she wanted more friends. She's going to
yeah,
be in senior high, and she wanted to go to university fields,
yes, yes,
but then the pandemic, and then she wasn't even able to step in the in the school. She took her exam there, entrance exam, but she wasn't able to really go to the classrooms and all that. So part of I feel like she's really she feels like she's really missing out. So but she's very responsible, so I encourage her to join the clubs. So it's a good thing that in UANP they have clubs there, and the teachers are very engaging.
yes.
So and I allow her. Technology is like a way of life for them. So I allow her to talk to her friends and all of that. And it's a good thing as well that my sister lives in the same village, so we get together. We are our own bubble, right? But my challenge really is my youngest, because he's kind of a reserved child. So he's a very much of an introvert, and going to school is very important for his social development. So with him, I need to give him more focus. I talk to his teachers regularly to check on him and how he's doing. And then I tell them to, please call on him, because if you don't call on him, he's not going to participate.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah,
it's really that's the challenge for me. Um, so it's really giving more time for me to connect with the teachers, which is much easier now, because before I had to take a leave so I can attend a teachers meeting. Now I just engage with them online, so I can have a meeting early in the morning. So in that way it's easier, but I really recognize the challenge. And even for our for our mothers, especially the moms with small children, and their kids are just in kindergarten or nurse, or what's this, a grade one. You really have to understand and give them some time to take care of the kids and let them guide them through online school. So we give them a little bit of flexibility in terms of office hours. So we tell them, it's not really about the hours that you spend in the office, but the outcomes. So as
yes.
long as the outcomes are clear, the output that's expected of you are clear, don't worry about, spending 9 o'clock to 10 a.m. Guiding your child. As long as you are able to deliver the expected outcomes, that's okay. So I think trying to consider and empathize with them and be more flexible with the parents, that with the working parents, that's very, very important.
Agreed. And I'm sure that, your fellow workers, your fellow employees will empathize with your having shared so much, because many of us sometimes are seen as so together as HR
Mm,
practitioners. They don't realize that we're human beings as well. We're just as challenged and as fallible as everyone else, and so we cope
mm,
however we can. Um,
that's
it,
true.
and it's wonderful that they should be able to hear this, because they'll see that there is a human person uh, representing HR for Aboitiz. Wonderful. Um,
But Dino, I would also like to. I don't get to express my appreciation for the other HR people, but during this pandemic, I also felt a lot of I've received a lot of support from different HR in different companies. I usually join the chat groups with them, so we asked each other, "What are you doing for your employees who are suffering from this long COVID? What's your?" So we exchange ideas, right? So even I have an association wherein it's a HR from different countries. So I asked them, in Singapore, do you give, for example, incentive for people who are in facility quarantine and all of that? So it's people are very, very generous about sharing their practices, and I really want to appreciate also the other HR practitioners, the professionals in the other companies.
and just curious, because some of the HR people I've talked to, one of them who is a colleague as a consultant as well, um, surrounds herself with poodles. And I say, doesn't that disturb you when you're doing your classes? And she says, no, they help me stay and keep my morale, because their love is unconditional, and it's especially useful for talents who happen to live alone, say staying in a
Mm,
condo, they don't have any human company. To have pets is such a big boon to their morale. So how do you feel about talents owning pets? Because sure, okay, they work from home, they take care of their kids, then they have special morale boosters.
the- I have a dog. I have a
Okay.
companion dog, right? So her name is Chloe, and she's just stays with me and makes because my children are they have their my bunso is almost a teenager, and I have a teenager, so they kind of keep to themselves. I see them during breakfast and lunch and dinner, but my dog is my constant companion, so I fully understand. And she stays here in the room, waits for me, tells me that you need to take a break. So she's the one who does that for me. So I totally understand why people um would like to have poodles and their and other dogs. So I have a lot of friends who are dog lovers too. So I think that's if it helps them in their mental health and their
Yeah.
wellness, relieving stress and anxiety, then go for it, because it's such a I think it's a very positive experience for me, and I think for them too. Actually,
Mm.
one of the things that has been put forward in the organization lately is like a benefit for single people who have pets, because they don't have dependents to enroll
Yes.
for HMO. So someone was giving a suggestion, why don't you just give a subsidy for pet care? So that's something that we're talking about right now. Very
That's true.
interesting.
Um, because dog food, for example, or cat food, for example, uh, they're not exactly cheap these days.
True.
They're going up in prices, and so being able to feed those who protect our morale uh, is a good idea. That's a fine idea. I'm just
And
curious
also
because
vaccines and pet care, medical
yeah,
care for
totoo.
pets. That's expensive too.
Yes. I'm wondering how do you keep employees engaged in terms of fun? How does Avoidis encourage people to distress, to to stay fit, because if there's one thing true about this pandemic, it's how we've added on the unbelievable pounds ever since we've been encouraged to just stay home. Um, how do you encourage people to stay
Stay
committed to a
fit.
fitness routine? Yeah.
Yeah, so when the pandemic started, a lot of our team members, I think, have tried everything already from online Zumba,
Yeah.
online dance classes, and all of that. So, and then we also have, we take mental health very seriously. So we have a hotline, a helpline, 24 by 7 helpline. If you really
Wow.
need help, you need someone to talk to, there is a number that you can call. So each of the business units, they have their own partners for this. We have the food group. Actually, they have an in-house uh, counselor, so that the team members can talk to. The Aboitiz Power has Capit, which is a program on mental health, and they also provide the helpline. The same with the corporate center AEB. We also have Infinite Care, which and we found out that people are actually calling
Mm.
for help and for someone to talk to. So we take that very seriously. We also regularly invite doctors, our partner doctors, to talk about the vaccines, especially when we were trying to convince everyone to go for
Yeah.
vaccines and all of that. Because in the beginning, there were some people, a very few percentage, who didn't believe that they should get the vaccine. So now we're almost 100%, almost
Wow.
80% vaccinated all over. So, and we're continuing with our vaccination, and it even extends to the family. So I commend the Aboitiz Equity Ventures, the corporate center, because they also have counseling for families. So that you can book a doctor, and then they can talk to you, and you can invite your family members in that session, and they will
Wow.
explain what the vaccine is and how it's going to be administered, what are the possible side effects, and how to counter those side effects. So it's very, very important. So, but I think we really miss the fun of, going to getting together. We have very, very nice parties in the Aboitiz group, and I think that's what we miss the most. Yun. Pero dati kasi we also have A clubs. So A clubs are clubs that are sponsored by the Aboitiz group. So if you, for example, if you like reading, so you'll have a club for that. Toastmasters is one of the clubs. We have Musica. So those who are inclined to music, they are the ones who usually will they are our band during our Friday nights, right? And in our office in the corporate center in BGC, we used to have free beers for
Oh,
Fridays. So we don't have that anymore.
okay.
So people tend to stay after after office hours on Fridays, just to chill, and you know those are the things that we miss the most. But we try to do that. So the IT group, for example, they have the what they call O beer time. So it's like
Okay.
an online inuman that they have their own drinks at home, but they gather virtually, and they chill together, pero yun nga lang, virtual siya. But we look forward to the future when we can see
Yeah.
people again, and we can have that Aboitiz culture of having a great party and good time together.
Yeah. I suppose this will eventually occur once herd immunity is attained in the Philippines, 70% vaccinated. And God willing, we're getting there. Um,
Yeah,
Now, let me
hopefully.
address this to the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are watching this, you've heard what Ruby has shared with all of us. If some of you are considering joining an organization that's fully committed to engaging its employees, look no further. It seems to me, as an objective observer, that Aboitiz has its plans together, and they're willing and able to provide you with what you need: a career, engagement, and even a balanced life. So do consider them when you're thinking about where you'd like to go. So, Ruby, I'd like to invite you to share maybe some final thoughts to our audience about, you know, because HR can only do so much to engage people. How can we, as talents in our homes, um, engage or keep ourselves? What can we do to say in Tagalog para masuklian naman yung ginagawa ng HR? Because after all, ang sarap pumusta sa taong handang pumusta sa sarili. Um,
Mm.
what would you say for people? I mean, not necessarily those in Aboitiz, but our viewers.
For everyone.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think what you said is very meaningful. Pumusta tayo sa sarili natin, ano.
Yes.
So I always, because it's a difficult situation right now. It's very challenging. A lot of things are changing, and sometimes siguro we can't keep ourselves above water. We feel like we're overwhelmed and drowning. I would think of it as, learn to take care of ourselves. Put on that oxygen mask for yourself, and before you, because sometimes we try to be everything to everyone, right? And we forget ourselves. But put on that oxygen mask and take care of yourself and take a breath. Sometimes I also, to be honest, I also forget to take a breath. Um, but I keep on seeking help. Don't be afraid to seek help and to
Yes.
ask people around you, your mentors, your family, your very good friends, on when you feel overwhelmed and drowning, because they can be your oxygen mask. And then we wake up every day and we put on that mask, and then we do help the people around us again.
Mm.
So, and then let's be hopeful for the future, because how bad can it get?
Well, with the elections coming, it's
Oh,
still a
yeah.
toss up. It
Yeah,
really
but
all depends on how that turns out. But I'm
yeah,
with
but
you.
when you look back at all the challenges that you have
Yeah.
um, gone through, parang it just builds your resilience, and you tell yourself, kaya pa rin, laban pa rin tayo.
You do have a good point because we have been learning to cope. Notwithstanding what's going on around us, we have learned to make adjustments, to pivot. And so the resiliency of the human spirit is very much intact. Uh, wow. And I'd just like to thank you again for being our guest to episode 6 on season 6. Um, are there any upcoming events you'd like to mention?
Well, we're going to have a Facebook Live for the Aboitiz Group, and we will be posting that on our Facebook page. Please follow us on our social media pages, Aboitiz Careers in Facebook and Aboitiz Group on LinkedIn. And if you'd like to talk to me and connect with me, I'm very much happy to. I will be very much happy to connect with you. Please follow me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Ruby Jaucian. And I usually, a lot of my co-alumnus from Manila Science and UP, when they see me there, they connect with me. So I engage with them to receive a message from you very soon.
Okay, thank you so much, Ruby. And as a fellow alumni of UP, I can say that HR and Aboitiz is in good hands thanks to your presence. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to lead us in thanking Ruby for taking time out to be our guest today. Ruby, maraming maraming salamat sa iyo.
Maraming salamat din. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to meet you, Dino. And thank you for this opportunity to share my passion, which is human resources and people engagement. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, I do hope that you stay with us for episode 7, which is coming next week, where we interview a previous guest, another HR expert, Mosharaf Hossein, who will be talking to us about work-life balance in this new normal. So as ever, I just like to remind everybody that learning is a never-ending journey with limitless vistas. Good day, everybody.